All right, today's the day I do it. I just nail the coffin and be being canceled in the marketing industry. But today's podcast is literally based upon if you let fear lead, fear will bleed over you and everybody else, causing damage on both sides. And I'm just really sick and tired of incredible people like you who listen to this podcast, not feeling in alignment, driven by their heart and excited about what they do because the rest of the world and industry convinces you that there's a right or wrong way to do it. So we unpack all of that in today's episode, and it's one of those short, loving, George is a pink honey badger, direct to the source. Let's get to work. I love you. And without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George show. And let's just get a little ranty. If you lead with fear, you're guaranteed to create fear. And I got a little agitated this morning. And by agitated, meaning I'm just sick and tired of people utilizing tactics and strategies that they were either taught or caught that lead them to a place of unhappiness, struggling to put their head on the pillow and fall asleep. And at the deepest level, being out of alignment. And so I'm going to say it and I'll just pre-cancel myself. Stop believing the lies and all the bull crap that people say and expecting positive results. It's completely impossible. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, let me give you some examples. We've heard the terms agitation marketing, motivating with fear, being a quote unquote authority, having boundaries, pushing the close, objection handling, over transacting and being a stage 9 clinger from Wedding Crashers. And if you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend it. She says, I'll find you. But all of those things end up sacrificing ourselves in the process. And it breaks my heart. Like I even remember when I was in San Diego a couple of months ago giving a keynote, and I gave a talk about caring. I gave a talk about caring about your customers and connecting with them at the deepest level. And I love those talks. What I didn't love is after that talk, I had 5 to 6 people come up to me and tell me in tears that they felt so out of alignment trying to follow somebody else's script, somebody else's process, somebody else's system, somebody else's funnel. And it made them feel like they were disrespecting themselves in the process. And you cannot win when you play the game that way. And it drives me bonkers. So like, what is agitation marketing? Well, it's telling people that they're making mistakes, creating guilt and shame, and removing their agency. You're failing at this. You'll never make it like this. You won't be able to do it unless you do it this way. Or my favorite red flag, as Matt Rife would call, hey, my path is the only path and it's guaranteed to work. Like, hello, red flag in restraining order territory. It doesn't work. What's the next one? Motivating with fear. Telling them that they'll never change, that they're stuck there, that you're the only solution out. Hello, creating massive amounts of codependency and things that are disempowering and getting in the way of people having breakthroughs. Or one of my favorites, being a quote unquote authority, right? People being taught that authority is either thinking, believing, or trying to be quote unquote better than your clients because you were told that's how to make them want to work with you. I have all the answers. I'm the best example in the world. My life is perfect. Here's my social media lifestyle. Like, no. How about humanity? How about connection? Or having quote unquote boundaries, right? Hiding our personal struggles or emotions from our team or our customers to somehow maintain respect. Pretending that we have it all together. Pretending that we don't face the same struggles, maybe just in a different wrapping paper at a different level of business. Or one of my favorites, and in that same San Diego event, ended up until 1 a.m., 2 a.m., in the middle of deep, passionate conversations about objection handling, pushing the close, trying to use force or quote unquote objection handling as a way to force people to work with you when they're genuinely not ready. All of these things genuinely turn off the number one secret when it comes to being in business. And being in business is about connection. Being in business is about empowering people to be the hero of their own journey by getting them one step closer to their goal or getting them to the finish line, not by berating them, briefing them, putting them down, and then wondering why they never take action. Like, our job is to be a catalyst. Our job is to be an example that gives somebody a permission slip to believe it's possible for themselves and then borrow some confidence and support from a teammate who can help them walk closer to that goal. Because in the end of the day, We both lose if they think they can't do it without us. And I see this all the time. And unfortunately, I had to walk through these lessons myself. I started in this game doing it the same way, having upsells, having these funnels, having these things because everybody told me that was the way, but it literally left me feeling empty. And every ounce of success that I had was never celebrated because it just made me feel ickier and ickier and ickier. And so we fall into this trap because we don't just get to authentically be ourselves, and we accidentally end up leading with fear. If we have things underneath the surface, if we have insecurities underneath the surface, if we feel out of alignment with the things that we're saying or the things that we're doing, that's going to be perceived on the receiving end and get in the way of both people's breakthroughs. Being authority or being an authority is not, I'm the best in the world. I have all the answers. I'm better than you. Being an authority or being a leader means I'm willing to play this game with you. I'm playing it as well. I'm walking hand in hand, side by side with you, and together we can figure this out. And if it fits into the scope and lens of what we do, then we'll be able to do it together. And if not, I'll be the first one to make an introduction and help you find somebody else who can. But it's not this posturing. It's not this showing all the pretty pictures. It's not this pretending that life is unicorns and rainbows. It's about being real. And I was on a call the other day with all of our alliance members. And in the last month, I've been behind the scenes of so many incredible entrepreneurs' businesses, ranging from 5 figures a month, 6 figures a month, 7 figures a month. And there's 3 words that keep standing out for me. The 3 words that people crave. They crave community, they crave endowment, which is depth of connection, and they crave implementation. And we've lived in this world on the internet for the last 10, 15 years. Like I've almost been in this for 2 decades, and I'm seeing it across the board. Selling these false promises, selling these visions, selling these dreams, and then everybody ends up in debt with no results and nothing but frustration. And not once in any world would we ever walk into a store, buy a product, and expect that product not to work. We would never go spend $500 on a product, bring it home, and be like, oh, it doesn't work. I'm okay with it. We'd be asking for a refund. We'd be asking for something different. And our lives and our businesses on the internet are no different. And so I recorded a short reel on this morning, and it got me all fired up because it really drives me nuts that people think that this is the way to do business. The world is screaming for connection. You're seeing it across the board. Webinars aren't working like they used to. Transactional emails aren't working like they used to. Berating people in the DMs aren't working like they used to. Like, haven't we seen it enough on LinkedIn and cold pitches on Instagram? Like, people crave connection. And underneath every single decision that a human being makes, underneath every follow decision, comment decision, schedule a call decision, give you their credit card decision, is them requiring this feeling of safety. And as silly as this sounds to say, when was the last time you've ever been excited to buy something, felt unsafe, and then whipped out your credit card? When was the last time you were excited to talk to somebody, then they made you feel less than safe, and you still engaged in that conversation? The world is doing our work for us. It's forced this disconnection. It's forced these transactions. And all it's doing is literally making relationships rise to the top. But at some point, we have to take a stand, and we have to be willing to do this the right way. Because in the lens of business, our job doesn't start or end, or our job doesn't end, when somebody opts in or when somebody buys. That's when the game begins. Our job doesn't end until we've fulfilled our promises and kept our word to get somebody to their outcome or one step closer to it, or they decide that we're no longer a fit. But as far as I'm concerned, that means that our job as leaders is to be in alignment at the deepest level, to share our hearts. Leadership is not force. Leadership is not posturing. Leadership is opening our hearts to meet somebody wherever they are and giving them an invitation to have a teammate, to walk them closer to their finish line, knowing they don't have to do it alone. But at the end of the day, we have to take agency. We have to take a look in the mirror. We have to ask ourselves some deep questions about what we stand for, why we stand for those things, and who are we willing to be, and what are we willing to say so that our people find us and know they have a teammate in their corner. Our truth is our freedom. the way that we show up, the way that we feel things. It's completely okay to tell somebody that you don't have an answer. It's completely okay to tell somebody that you have a bad day. It's completely okay to tell somebody that you've stubbed your toe 100 times. I remember a podcast I did with a friend on the show, and he manages $70 billion of business. And we were laughing hysterically because he's like, the only reason I'm successful is because I've publicly failed more than anybody, and I know what mistakes not to make. But we can't allow these false filters and these false teachings to get in the way of our authenticity. We can't allow the views or perception of the world to rob us of our power. Your humanity is your greatest weapon when it comes to business. Your natural view of the world, your perspective, your journey through the process is what people are coming in to receive. And the only way that they can receive it is if you show it. Not falsify it, not take a false stand, not pretend that it's together, not to tell people that we care about them, but the moment we have a question, say, oh, I can't talk to you until you buy my program. Oh, I can't answer your question until you get in. Oh, I don't like that one. I'm not helping you. That's not what the game is. The game is genuinely about caring. And there's not one successful company that's been around or lasted in any lens of legacy that's been built on the back of stepping on other people, letting them know that they're an inconvenience, letting them know that you're really not interested. And even when that happens in the real world, when you go to restaurants, when you go to car dealerships, when you go to stores and you are treated like a transaction, you never go back. And the only way to create something different is to really value what it is that you're standing for and allow the depth of your community, the depth of your connection to be the true difference maker so that people feel safe and empowered in your space so that they have agency to walk towards their goals and you get to be the teammate that's there in the process. But that really begins with acknowledging who we are. Because if we're afraid, if we're doing things out of alignment, if we're saying things because somebody told us to say them, if we're launching a program with a model that somebody else told us we have to do, if we're doing direct sales objection handling because they said that's the only way, and in the window and in the mirror that you look into at the deepest level, you feel like you're out of alignment, you feel like you're out of integrity, your energy precedes you and people are going to feel that. At the end of the day, the things that you learn, the people that you consume, even this podcast, even the things that I say here, are not here for you to take them verbatim. Like, oh, I'm going to go be George. I'm going to go do it this exact way. They're things for you to filter through your heart and see if you feel in alignment with them. See if you feel in congruence with them. And then utilize some of these ingredients to make your recipe that makes you feel the best about what you do. Because there is no right or wrong way to do business. And I tell people this all the time, even before the internet, people were managing to build 5, 10, 15, $20 million businesses without any of the strategies and tactics that are here. All of them have always been the same. It's based on deep-rooted principles of connection, of understanding, of empathy. And of course, it's okay to sell. But selling is not tricking. Selling is not convincing. Selling is inviting people into a greater possibility with you being the teammate in their corner. And so if we allow our fear to overwhelm us and we lead with fear, we're going to bleed that fear over everybody else and we're going to get in the way of both of our breakthroughs. And so this is your permission slip and this is your invitation to throw all those crappy tactics, all that crappy marketing, all those things that somebody said you should do or you have to do or this is the only way, and look in the mirror and start asking yourself and say, what would I like to do? What would make me feel the best? What would fill my bucket? What would make me feel like I'm honoring my word, I'm honoring my relationship, and I'm building something that I'm proud of, knowing that I don't care what my bank account balance is on my headstone, nor do I care how many people show up for my funeral, but I do sure as hell care how many people have something positive to say about me when my kids bring up my name. And that's the way that we're supposed to build businesses. That's the way that we're supposed to build impact. We need to treat people the way that we would want our families treated, the way that we would want our friends treated, our girlfriends, our wives, our husbands, if they were buying a product or service. And never once will that be about some crappy tactic, some crappy transaction, or some stupid system that felt out of alignment in the first place. because those things don't work. Your heart, your values, and your vision, while being humble enough and vulnerable enough to share your story and journey, is what truly gives other people a permission slip to put on their boots, put on their running shoes, and to start running their journey because they know that they're not alone. And so that's what I had to share with you today. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I don't really have anything else, but I'm getting a little ranty, and so we're going to wrap this one with a close. And so I love you. I appreciate you to pieces, and I can't wait to hear, even if you feel like yelling at me, how I triggered you or any breakthroughs or takeaways from this episode. And you know how to get a hold of me. You have my permission to slide into my DMs. But you'll either see me in the next episode or you'll hear me in your ear bowls. But either way, we're out.